or your drugs or alcohol or even chemical toxics to the liver. So as we all know, sa liver dumadaan lahat ng um, mga toxins. Lang Ayaw na naman niya mag-move. Lang, ayusin na din natin. Sorry, maingay yung mga aso. Meron na ba nagkaroon ng hepatitis sa inyo? Wala pa naman. Wala pa naman. So yun, isa sa ita-tackle natin diyan yung hepatitis B, yung para sa inyong internship din. Yan, so okay na. So we have two types of your hepatitis. It could be due to infectious causes or toxic causes. So for your infectious, you have your viral, your bacterial, and your parasitic hepatitis. And then for your toxic one, so this may be due to your alcohol, your usually yung iba nag-herbal and other chemicals. Okay, so here are some of the examples of the causative agents for your viral, your bacterial, and your fungal hepatitis. So, usually, ang common sa atin, syempre, ay yung hepatitis from A to E. Yung mga CMV, cytomegalo, Ebola virus, mga HSV, hindi naman siya ganun ka-common. We should take note that even your COVID-19 can be one of the causes of your viral hepatitis. Okay, so for your drugs or your medications, your paracetamol, acetaminophen could also cause liver damage or your direct liver injury. So Sa mga patients or sa mga nagfi-fever, hindi natin laging, ina-advice yung paracetamol. Minsan, sasabihin, "Dok, malamig lang po or mainit, pakiramdam ko, hindi ko na-check yung temperature ko." So, dapat, sa amin, ina-advice namin, paki-check muna po yung temp or be sure na chill siya before drinking, or taking your medication such as your paracetamol. Kasi minsan na overdose sila, hindi nila alam kung paano inumin, at the same time yung dosage. So, other causes would be your amoxicillin clavulanic acid, your nitrofurantoin, isoniazid, your anti-TB drugs, or sulfonylureas, your anti-diabetic drugs, your azithromycin, fluoroquinolones, diclofenac, your rifampin, also your anti-TB drugs, and some other antibiotics. So we go now to your types of hepatitis from A to E. So, meron akong papakitang parang chart mamaya para mas madali niyong matandaan and i-emphasize ko yung mga kailangan niyong tandaan for the exam. So your hepatitis A would come from your contaminated food or drink. Your hepatitis B would come from maternal to fetal transmission, sexual transmission, sharing of needles, and direct contact with the blood of an infected person. So your hepatitis C, also through childbirth and sharing of needles or tattoos. Your hepatitis D can only be contracted if you already have your hepatitis B. And hepatitis E, same with hepatitis A. So this one is lifted from Basnik. So kung nadaanan nyo siya, so ito lang yung mga points na gusto nating matandaan nyo. Not more much of the viral family, your type of virus. Pero usually, for board exams, kailangan nyo ring ma-recognize if uh, yung hepatitis A is a single-stranded RNA, your hepatitis B or double-stranded DNA, so on and so forth. Pero para sa akin, ito yung mostly kailangan yung alam. So, both your hepatitis A and E um, comes from your transmission of your fecal oral route, and then they also do not have the chronicity. So, sila yung hindi nagkukos ng chronic liver disease. So, ulit po, ang hepatitis A and E, fecal oral route, and hindi siya nagkukos ng chronic disease. So yung B, C, and D, they are the usual ones who causes your chronic liver disease, and also halos pare-pareho sila ng route of transmission. And for the diagnosis, so detection of your serum IgM for your hepatitis A, for your Hepa B, your HB-Sag, your Hepa C, PCR for your HCV RNA, your Hepa D, so same as your Hepa B. And then for your hepatitis E, which is not that common, PCR din. So what are your symptoms of your hepatitis? So usually, ang common dyan, flu-like symptoms like your fever, nausea, vomiting, myalgia, and then later na ma-manifest yung mga jaundice, pain in the right upper quadrant usually of your abdomen, and then your dark urine. So if you have a patient, this is an algorithm. So if you have a patient who is jaundice or if you are suspicious of viral hepatitis, syempre ang uunahin natin yung liver function test. Your AST, your ALT, your alkaline phosphatase. Then if there is marked elevation, so most probably you suspect of your viral hepatitis. First, you determine your severity by physical exam if the patient has encephalopathy or your blood test, your time with your INR. And then, syempre, kailangan malaman kung anong cause. Ano ba siya? Hepa A, B, C, D, or E. So, you can sometimes confirmatory na lang yung mga serologic testing because based on the history, you can already, somehow, guess or, know what the type of hepatitis the person has. So, if the person has history, kunyari mahilig po ako sa street foods, siyempre you would suspect Hepa A or E, so more common na yung A. And then, um, you elicit the history or sexual history if the patient has been exposed to use needles or history of drug use. So most probably it would be Hep B or Hep C. So for the treatment, so and prevention, so for your hepatitis A and D, syempre good hygiene, avoid street food. So meron ba diyan mahilig sa street food? So medyo ingat-ingat lang. And then for your hepatitis B, C, and D, so ito yung mga hepatitis viruses na uh, transmitted through shared needles, razors, toothbrushes. So ingat-ingat sa mga nagshi-share ng toothbrushes, medyo gross, ano. Then for sexual contact and intercourse, siyempre transmission is manifested in hepatitis B and C, so practice safe sex, use condoms. And then, liver transplantation is usually the definitive treatment for those patients na pangit na yung, kumbaga pangit na yung kanilang profile regarding your liver failure. And for those non-fulminant Hepa B, they would resolve spontaneously. And then siyempre, lifestyle modification would be also of great help. So avoid alcohol consumption, and then maintain a healthy diet. So fruits, vegetables, regular exercise. And this one's most critical sa iba yung vaccination. So some would have their vaccination against the hepatitis A. And for us, medtechs, medical fields, nurses, and other medical fields, so kailangan ng vaccination ng Hepa B kasi nga ito ay shared through needles. So next year na lang, um, magpa-screening muna tayo, yung HB-Sag. Bakit ba kailangan ng screening, doktora? Kasi po, yun nga, as I've said, hindi puwede na reactive ka sa HB-Sag kasi yun yung surface marker, 'di ba? So, meaning screening siya sa if you have your Hepa B, virus. So, kung reactive ka, hindi puwedeng ibigay yung vaccine sa'yo, okey? Then puwede yung tatanungin niyo naman, "Doktora, paano yun na-vaccine-nan na kami nung bata, kumpleto yung bakuna namin." Well, yung Hepa B vaccine, meron din siyang, parang expiration. So, 15 years. So, lagpas na kayo ng 15 years, so you need to have your Hepa B, um, vaccine boosted. Kung magbibigay tayo ng booster dose, 3 doses pa din. Parang, back to start siya, okey? So, may mga tanong ba at this point? Oh, okey, sige. Next na tayo. So from the liver, we go to your diseases of your gallbladder. So cholelithiasis, meron na bang nagkaroon ng cholelithiasis sa inyo? Gallstones. So if hopefully wala. So if ever, yung mga mahilig sa matataba, mga samgyupsal, ano pa, fast food, medyo limit tayo diyan. Kasi these gallstones are hardened deposits of your digested fluid. So as we all know, ang tagatunaw ng fats from your pancreas and your emulsification from your gallbladder. So it would depend on your three factors. Supersaturation of bile, yan yung matataas yung cholesterol. Number 2, your nucleation of crystals and eventually hypomotility. 'Pag hindi na nagalaw masyado yung gallbladder, kakaroon na siya ng stone growth. Please remember these 3 factors. Okay, so for the risk factors, demographics, family history, namamana rin siya. More on the female gender. So, ito yung acronym niya, FAT 40 female fertile. So, 4 Fs. And then, syempre, in your diet, if you prefer low fiber and high unsaturated fat diet, pwede kayo magkaroon ng polylithiasis. Low-grade physical activity, tapos pregnancy, prolonged fasting would also cause your gallstones. And these associated conditions such as your bariatric surgery, diabetes mellitus, dyslipidemia, so yung mga estrogen therapy. So yung estrogen that would increase the risk of gallstone kaya siya common sa female na naman. So babae na naman. Okay, so here are your types of stone, your cholesterol stones, your black pigment stones, and your mixed stones. So your cholesterol stones usually comes from your abnormal cholesterol metabolism. So either way, minsan nakakatch natin yan kung mataas ang cholesterol serum, yung ating lipid profile, papacheck ang patient. Tapos meron siyang symptoms ng abdominal pain or right upper quadrant pain, we suspect gallstones, or usually cholesterol stones. Your black pigment stones comes from your hemolysis of your red blood cells, unconjugated bilirubins, and eventually they become your calcium bilirubinate. Okay, so yung mixed stones, it comprises from your biliary infection and or infestation. Or ang dapat lang tandaan dito yung most common is your cholesterol stones. Okay, so if your cholesterol stones got stuck up on your gallbladder, this would cause your cholecystitis o mamamaga yung gallbladder. So these are the reasons why uh, namamaga siya and causing your cholecystitis o obstruction. So, yung mga calculus cholecystitis, yun nga yung comes from your gallbladder stones. And then, some would be due to your chemical reaction. So, yun nga, di ba, isa sa factors ng cholelithiasis is yung motility niya, slow motility. So, yung bile na stuck up sa gallbladder, nagkaroon ng chemical reaction, eventually autolysis, causing your cholecystitis. And then compression, again, from your gallbladder stones. And causes, bacteria. So, sa bacteria, just remember E. coli, Klebsiella. Yan. Common causes ng cholecystitis. And so on. Di naman masyado importante iba. Some would have your tumor, gallbladder tumor or pancreatic tumors, and then your HIV patients, yan, pwede rin sila magkaroon ng cholecystitis. So there are two types, your acute and your chronic cholecystitis. For your acute cholecystitis, it is the inflammation which causes your severe right upper abdominal quadrant pain, radiating to your shoulder blades and the gallbladder mate. Ito yung medyo kailangan talaga ng immediate intervention because it would cause your tear or burst of your gallbladder, thus releasing your bile into the abdomen. So this could be life-threatening. Unlike your chronic cholecystitis, these are recurrent bouts of your mild swelling and inflammation and will often damage your gallbladder wall and causing it to thicken. Kumbaga yung chronic, parang nasanay na yung gallbladder sa pain so hindi na siya yung ganun ka emergency, needs emergency surgical intervention. So for your clinical picture, Ayan sa ating, table. For acute, severe, o pakitandaan na lang din, 'pag acute cholecystitis, usually severe right upper quadrant pain, tenderness, and may fever. 'Pag chronic na, poorly localized na yung pain kasi nga ulit-ulit lang siya, recurrent bouts, and then usually no fever na 'yan. For the laboratory findings, in your chronic cholecystitis, normal lang yung lab test. While in your acute cholecystitis, syempre, there's acute inflammation, you have your leukocytosis, and your mild alkaline phosphatase elevation. To diagnostic testing, we use ultrasonography or your ultrasound for imaging. Okay, so for the management, usually we give antibiotics initially. So you have your broad spectrum, piperacillin, tazobactam, your imipenem, cilastatin, and then your fluoroquinolone, ciproflox, levofloxacin, plus metronidazole. But eventually, you would need, as I've said, an emergency or if hindi naman pa toxic yung patient, usually nagbibigay muna ang mga surgeon yan, mga antibiotics. Then eventually, they would schedule for OR. It could be your laparoscopic. So, pag laparoscopic, maliliit lang. As you can see in your left side of the picture dito, maliliit lang yung butas niya. May scope lang na ipapasok and then dun na sa monitor na titingnan ng surgeon kung paano niya i-manipulate yung device while you're open cholecystectomy. Bubuksan siya. Tatanggalin na mismo yung gallbladder. So, siguro para sa akin mas mainam na lang yung open cholecystectomy although aesthetically hindi siya okay kasi nga meron kang scar. However, hindi na gano'n mas mataas kasi yung recurrence rate 'pag laparoscopic cholecystectomy, unlike your open cholecystectomy kasi nga tatanggalin mo na buo yung gallbladder. Okay, okay pa kayo diyan? Sige, next na tayo. So, next is your stomach. Ito medyo magkakaugnay siya. So we have your gastritis initially. So this is just the inflammation of your gastric mucosa or the lining of your stomach. So some gastritis can lead ulcers, especially if you have recurrent bouts, and also predisposes you to increased risk of your stomach cancer. So this is an endoscopic view of your gastric mucosa, your left side, your normal antrum, and your right side. As you can see, namumula na yung kanyang mucosal lining. Meron ba sa inyo dito na sakitin ang tiyan, sikmurain, nag-hyperacidity? So, ingat-ingat tayo diyan kasi ayan, usually yan sa mga students na encounter namin sa clinics. Mga hindi pa kumakain, yan, nilipasan ng gutom, tapos magso-soft drinks or magco-coffee, sasabihin, "Nag-aaral po kasi kami kaya kailangan ng kape." Puwede naman, pero not much. Baka naman ilang tasang kape na yung naubos niyo, ilang Starbucks na yung nabili niyo. So, limit din tayo doon. So, here are your causes on your left side, causes of your gastritis. For your acute, usually, so anything na acute naman talaga is more on the emergency side. So, usually cause are your aspirin. So, yung mga elderly natin, usually yung mga if may parents or grandparents kayo na nag-aspirin or your NSAIDs, yung mga pain relievers, diclofenac, mga ganyan. Medyo ingat-ingat tayo. Wag laging, yung sa NSAIDs, wag laging iniinom kasi lagi namin ina-advise yun. Baka sikmurain, magasgas sikmura. For your aspirin, kailangan laging busog pag iniinom ng patient. Then another cause would be your H. pylori, which will be discussed later. And also your alcohol, yan, stress, bile reflux after surgery, mga viral infections, and then yung mga chronic, di na masyadong important pero nice to know. And then for your symptoms, so usual symptoms, "Dok, masakit po yung sikmura ko, sinisikmura ako, so your burning feeling, abdominal bloating, parang bloated po, dighay po ako ng dighay. Tapos para po ako naduduwal, nausea and vomiting. Parang di po ako natunawan, indigestion." So, yan yung mga common symptoms. Then, 'pag loss of appetite medyo on the ano na yan side, medyo alarming na yun kasi, magkakaroon ka na ng weight loss eventually. So, you need to further investigate on these patients. So, what is the pathophysiology of your peptic ulcer naman? So, una-una yung gastritis. Then eventually kapag, yun nga recurrent bouts ng gastritis or there is this, imbalance between your defensive mechanism of your stomach and your aggressive, mechanism, it would cause your peptic ulcer. So, this is the disruption of your gastric mucosa lining more than 5 millimeters up to the submucosa. Um, as I've said, this is imbalance. So, kung yung ang defensive mechanisms ng stomach is your bicarbonates, your mucus layer, prostaglandins, your good mucosal blood flow, and epithelial renewal. So, syempre, kung mababa lahat yan, and then na-overcome siya nitong aggressive, um, mga aggressive types nito, H. pylori, yun nga, NSAIDs, bile acids, smoking and alcohol, your pepsins, this would ultimately lead to your peptic ulcer. So, yung HCl mo and pepsins sa aggressive type, ito yung nagdi-destroy ng gastric and duodenal mucosa. So, lahat, ayun nga, ang laging sinasabi sa pasyente, yung meron po talaga tayong acid sa sikmura. So, pag tumaas yun yung nagkukos ng gasgas or ulcerations. And then your protective mechanism, your defensive, your mucus and bicarbonate. Your mucus protects your mucosa while your bicarbonate as a buffer inhibits autodigestion. So kung ewan ko kung sa inyo pero nung maliit kami sasabihin ng magulang namin pag di ka kumain kakainin ng sikmura mo, bituka mo, parang gano'n. Yun yung autodigestion siguro na gusto nilang iparating. Okay, so yung prostaglandins naman, part of your defensive, also defensive, it enhances your mucosal blood flow, inhibiting your acid secretion, and also increasing your mucus and bicarbonate production. Tandaan po yung slide na ito, ano? Okay. So this is just an illustration of your normal, your injured, and your ulcerated gastric mucosa. O, pag na-increase ng damage, nagkaroon ka ng increase insidious nga, yung iba nagkakaroon ng ischemia, thus causing your injury. Then eventually, syempre, yung inflammation natin, inflammatory factors, kakaroon na siya ng necrotic debris, ulcer na siya. So, etiology of your peptic ulcers, as I've said, your H. pylori, your NSAIDs, yung stress-related, not much of that. Yan yung mga uncommon causes. So, one of the causes of your gastritis and eventual ulceration, peptic ulceration, is your Helicobacter pylori. So, these are your gram-negative spiral microaerophilic flagellated bacteria. So, they can live in an acidic environment. So, higher prevalence in developing countries. So, sa ating bansa, it is common. Transmission is via your oral fecal route. And usually, asymptomatic siya initially. However, it could develop into having your abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, dyspepsia, and eventually ulcer nga. And this bacteria would also cause your atrophic gastritis, gastric lymphoma, and eventually nagkukos din siya ng gastric carcinoma. So, ganun siya ka-strong. So, here are your mechanism of action for your H. pylori. So, pakitandaan lang po yung urease activity niya. So, important role yun yung Kumbaga, ang kanyang power nagagaling dun kaya kaya niyang ma-resist yung acidic environment ng stomach. Then the flagella, your flagella mediated motility. So, para makapasok siya sa epithelial cells ng gastric mucosa. And then, meron din siyang bacterial adhesins interacting with your hostile receptors. So, kaya siya nakapag-colonize. And eventually, yung mga toxins niya that could lead to your tissue damage. And then, your gastric epithelial layer would counteract it with your chemokines, your innate immunity, your neutrophils, so inflammation na naman. Kaya from gastritis, nagko-cause din siya ng ulceration. Lalo na kung hindi siya napa-check. So, this is just summary kung anong meron ng H. pylori. So, yun po, pakitandaan na lang po yan, yung mechanism niya, yung urease, yung flagella, kahit yun lang for your examination, pero the entirety of it, you need it for your board exam. So, diagnostics, usually, ang pasyente sasabihin, Dok, may ulcer po ako. Pag tinanong mo yan, nakapagpa-endoscopy na po ba kayo? Hindi pa po. So, yung term usually kasi ng common people, pag sumakitan siya o nag-hyperacidity, may ulcer sila, which is technically not valid kasi you need to have your endoscopy done para assured ka kung ano ba meron ka, gastritis lang ba o may ulcer ka na talaga. So, during endoscopy, you also, the gastroenterologist would get a biopsy of your gastric mucosa. Yun, itetest yung H. pylori. So, these are some of the tests for your H. pylori. So, most specific pa rin dahil bacteria siya, lagi natatandaan yun. Pag bacteria ang origin, culture sensitivity yan. Unless yung mga special bacteria, yung mga kailangan ng ibang agar, pero usually culture and sensitivity. So, yan nga, as I've said, yung endoscopic test, may biopsy kinukuha, then you test it using your rapid urease test. Pag nag-positive, iba change color siya. Di ko na lagay sa slide yung test kit nun, rapid urease. Usually from yellow, nagiging blue yata or green siya. So, for your non-invasive test, usually bihira na itong ginagawa. Your urea breath test for your H. pylori. So, using your breath. So, dun ma-determine kung paano. Ang kanyang principle is from your urea will change into your ammonia. So, medyo ammoniacal yung odor ng breath. Oh, this is just a summary of your H. pylori test and the explanation why. So, for your blood test, yung iba, serologic testing ang ginagawa. Yung iba, yun nga, breath test. Yung stool test, usually, fecal occult blood test would determine also, or it would be a clue if you have your peptic ulcer, if it is bleeding or not. Then endoscopy, yung eventually magpapa-endoscopy, urea breath test. For the treatment, syempre, una, we advise lifestyle. So, reduce your alcohol, your irritating foods, your fatty foods, your ano yan, halos kabisado na namin pa nag-a-advise sour, spicy, ideally stress, manage your stress. And yun nga, medyo bawasan yung mga antibiotic use, your pain relievers, NSAIDs. Pero kung hindi maiwasan, take it with food. Yung mga, kasi 'di ba may mga gamot naman na can be taken without food. So, yung ibang gamot na kailangan with food, 'pag in-advise sa inyo ng doktor, huwag niyo siyang inumin ng gutom kayo. And then, eventually your endoscopic or surgical intervention. Pero yung surgical, usually pagka may more severe findings na yun, more on endoscopy talaga. So aim of this treatment is to decrease your gastric acidity, enhance your mucosal defense mechanism. So ano yun, yung mga binanggit natin kanina, your bicarbonate, your mucosal barriers, prostaglandins, and so on and so forth. So these are the specific drugs used in the treatment of your peptic ulcers or antacids. So alam niyo na yun, yung mga Kremil S. It neutralizes your hydrochloric acid. Then you have your anti-secretory or protein pump inhibitor. So, isa pa to sikat, omeprazole, lahat ng mga omeprazole, esomeprazole, pantoprazole. Your H2 receptor blockers, ranitidine, muscarinic, wala tayo niyan. Mga sucralfate, mucosal protectives. And, syempre, um, to treat your H. pylori, meron tayong mga regimens dyan, your triple and quadruple. So, we will not deal more on that. So, nice to know lang na meron niyang ang component usually niyan antibiotics plus your PPIs. Okay, so okay pa ba tayo? Moving on. Pancreas na tayo. So, acute pancreatitis, syempre pinaka-common. Ito yung laging nalilink sa bangungot. Well, wala siyang scientific explanation. Ang siguro close to that is your alcohol. Kasi hindi ko alam kung naabutan niyo si Rico 'yan. Nilink sa kanya yung bangungot daw. So, hindi natin sure kung may tinik siyang ibang drugs or nag-ano ba siya, nagwalwal ng sobra. So, close to that would be your alcohol, most common cause kasi siya. Isa sa most common causes ng pancreatitis is your alcohol. And also your gallstone. So, in this picture, from your gallbladder, pwede siyang mapunta dito sa gawing pancreatic duct, blocking your common bile duct and pancreatic duct, thus causing your inflammation again. So, kakaroon din siya ng autodigestion, tinatawag. Again, ano ba yung necrosis pag acute pancreatitis? Naalala niyo pa ba yun? Ano yung type ng necrosis? Sir Franklin, pagka ano, pancreatic. Yes, masagot ni aso ko. Yan ba si Sir Franklin?
Po, ma'am. Ano po ulit, ma'am?
Anong type ng necrosis pagka yung acute pancreatitis? Kaya pag-aralan na natin sa case.
Ma'am Colapend.
Dali at bang ginagawa ng pancreas? Sige, sino daw? Ikaw, pili ka ng friend.
Ayan po si Andre po.
Sir Andre daw.
Hindi po ba fat necrosis?
Yes, thank you. May nakaalala pa, fat necrosis. Kasi siya yung isa bukod sa gallbladder, siya yung ano ng fat, 'di ba? Tumutulong sa digestion ng fat. Kaya nga other causes ng pancreatitis, kung mataas ang lipids mo, yan, hyperlipidemia, hypercalcemia, your autoimmune diseases. Okay? Ito yung mga mechanism and eventual manifestation or lesions niya. So, sabi ko nga, pancreatic duct obstruction. So, may cholelithiasis ka, chronic alcoholism. That would cause your edema, impaired blood flow, ischemia, your acinar cell injury, and eventually this necrosis. Ayan no, nakalagay, fat necrosis. Kasi nga, di ba siya ang nagpo-produce ng mga lipases, di ba? Kasama siya sa workup ng acute pancreatitis. Then another would be acinar cell injury. So, alcohol, drugs, trauma, ischemia, release ng proenzymes, activation ng mga enzymes, So, anything na madadamay, magkakaroon ng injury sa assigner cells, ma-activate yung mga enzymes that would induce your acute pancreatitis. So, yan, may acute na naman siya and chronic. So, for your acute sudden attack, usually 48 to 72 hours. Manifestation, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, fever, tachycardia, or your increased heart rate. For chronic, yun, pag nasasanay na talaga, minsan yung organs, kunyari, yung iba kasi, pag mild lang yung symptoms, mild abdominal pain, hindi na nagpapacheck up. Pagka lagi na lang siya, um, lagi nararamdaman may pain, tsaka lang magpapacheck up. So, for your chronic, you have recurrent attacks, episodes of your abdominal pain. Ito may unexplained weight loss na, fatty stools, and diarrhea. So, for your acute pancreatitis, signs and symptoms, usually, pag tinanong ng pasyente, sakit po yung tiyan ko, tumatago sa likod. So, that would be your characteristic symptom for your acute pancreatitis. Steady boring pain in the epigastric area or yung iba sa left upper quadrant or which increases in intensity or severity, radiating or penetrating through the back, accompanied by fever, nausea, vomiting, and tenderness upon palpation. Siguro sa finals, tatry kong gawin yung sinabi ko before, yung case, parang may case. So, i-assess nyo yung patient para magmi-mini doctor kayo. So, yung mga signs niya, your Cullen sign and your Great Turner sign. Yung Cullen sign, these are your bluish discoloration sa epigastric area. While your Great Turner sign, these are your bluish discoloration or mukha siyang ecchymosis on your flank area. This indicates meron na siyang hemorrhagic state na yung pancreas, pancreas or minsan nakikita rin siya sa ibang diseases, yung mga may ectopic pregnancy na na siya, may hemorrhage na. Pero as of now, for you, it suffice to know that the Cullen sign and your Great Turner sign are parts of the signs of your acute pancreatitis. Pakitandaan po Okay, so what diagnostic test do we request? So as I've said, your serum lipase and amylase, initial workups. So tandem yan, sabayan nire-request. However, your lipase is more specific and mas matagal siyang nasa blood ng patient if the patient has acute pancreatitis. So your AST, ALTs are elevated, your alkaline phosphatase, this is due to if your cause would be gallstone or this obstruction. So ALP, pag may obstruction, lagi tinatandaan. And then, associated lab finding, syempre, inflammation siya, leukocytosis. Yung iba, may lipidemia nga, and hypocalcemia eventually. So, for the treatment, so since yung pancreas nga ay ang kanyang triggers ay fat or para siya mag-work, 'di ba? Fat trigger niya. NPO yung patient. Bawal siyang pakainin para hindi gumalaw-galaw ang kanyang pancreas. Then aggressive IV fluids, we use the narcotics, yung iba pag severe pain narcotics na binibigay natin. And then day 2 to 3, we switch it to start liquids naman. Then, for prevention of future attacks, yun nga, we need to know what's the cause. If the cause is your cholelithiasis, some would do prophylactic cholecystectomy. Yun. Then, pag nagtotoxic din siya, patient na acute pancreatitis, if not addressed early. So, na-ICU pa yung pasyente. So, that's the time we use your prophylactic antibiotics kasi severe na yung infection. Pag initial mild lang siya, wala pa yung masyadong bacterial accumulation. nag-i-inflame pa lang siya, nagkakaroon pa lang ng initial inflammation, yun pa lang hinahabol natin. That's why we give IV fluids lang and hindi natin pinapakain yung patient, NPO, nothing per ore. Okay, next na tayo, intestines. Kaya pa ba? Itoklak na. So, for the intestines, mabilis na lang to. Ito, AGE, common yan din yan. So, siguro naman lahat tayo nagkaroon na ng AGE, acute gastroenteritis. So, it is a combination or usually, per se, it is nausea and vomiting or combined with diarrhea and abdominal pain. So, ito yung symptoms niya. Diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, fever, syempre may inflammation, anything to do with inflammation, may fever, chills, body aches, fatigue. So, here are some of the or causes of your acute gastroenteritis for your viruses. Usually sa mga bata, common yung mga viral na to, yung rotavirus, yan. Norovirus, not much. So, pakitandaan sa viruses lang, rotavirus. Sa bacteria, sa mga elderly, yung mga Salmonella, Shigella, Campylobacter jejuni, or your protozoans, yung Giardia, Entamoeba histolytica, and also meron ding helminths, yung mga strongyloides. So, tandaan nyo na lang si Rota sa virus, sa bacterial, Shigella, or Salmonella. So, this is the pathogenesis. So, all of this, either your viral, your bacterial, or your protozoans, will infiltrate in your GI tract, causing your noxious stimuli, inflammation, stimulation of your visceral nerve afferents, causing your abdominal pain. And then, yung mga pathogenic toxins nila, stimulate your enteric chloride secretion, or meron silang pathogenic interaction sa enteric nervous system, increasing your GI fluid secretion, thus having your diarrhea. On the other hand, yung nausea and vomiting, release of your 5-HT from your enterochromaffin glands activating your chemoreceptor, stimulating your vomiting center, nausea and vomiting. So this is just to show you meron kasi tayong category, minimal or no dehydration. Yun kasi sa diagnosis namin usually AGE with no signs of dehydration, AGE with moderate sign, AGE acute gastroenteritis with moderate signs of dehydration, or yung iba severe. So ito lang yung mga symptoms niya. So nice to know lang na may ganito. Pwede ko ring ibigay na ano siya, sa case siguro. So, pag gising pasyente, kaya niyang uminom, drinks normally, minimal or no dehydration yan. Pagka may fatigue na siya, irritable na, tapos may eagerness to drink, moderate. Kapag severe dehydration, wala na, lethargic na siya, unable to drink. So, in the background of having your vomiting, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea, we can categorize the patient as AGE. So, if with no dehydration, well and alert, kaya pang uminom, mild to moderate, medyo restless na siya, may eagerness to drink. Pag severe na, hindi na niya kayang uminom ng water or mag-hydrate. Tapos tutulog-tulog na siya. So, yung mga the rest, more on ano na kasi to doctor's perspective. Pero siguro yung unang dalawa, pwede ko siyang ibigay as case sa exam. Okay? So, treatment, di na rin masyado. Pinakita ko lang sa inyo. So, usually, we give ORS, your oral rehydrated salts, and then IV fluids. So, sa mga bata, mas kailangan yung computation ng body weight to give your IV fluids kasi baka mamaya overhydrate or over fluid overload tayo sa kanila. Okay, so from AGE, we go to the kabilang side ng spectrum, which is your constipation. So, lahat din tayo naka-experience ng constipation. It is a functional bowel disorder defined as your abnormal colonic transit, decrease in frequency, 3 or fewer bowel movements in a week. And it is also a defecatory dysfunction in which there is difficulty in initiation of passage of stools. So, usually, alam ko, yung iba pag stress out, usually nagko-constipate or diarrhea yan. So, for your constipation, ito yung Bristol stool chart. So, sorry baka may kumakain sa inyo. Pasintabi na lang. So, just remember that your type 1 and 2, this would attribute to your constipated. Pag ganyan yung itsura ng stools, your hard pellet-like stools or your lumpy sausage shape constipation na yon. Your healthy stools would be like your sausage shaped stool with cracks or with smooth or soft like snake-like yung itsura ng stools. So, the causes, your insufficient amount of fluid. So, if hindi kayo mahilig uminom ng water, under stress kayo, eat unhealthy diet, laging nakahiga, hindi masyadong nagalaw, yan. Or yung iba, lack of exercise. Tapos, minsan, yung iba, kunyari, madudumi na. Biglang pipigilan, yun. It would cause your constipation. Your alarming signs, kasi hindi lahat ng constipation ay benign or hindi siya yung iisipin mo, functional constipation lang yan. So, there are alarming signs. So, kung may history ng cancer ang family, kung may anemia yung patient, or biglang nangayayat, so, we suspect other causes of your constipation. So, ito yung mga nagkukos usually. Nice to know, antihypertensive, antidepressants, diuretics, mga medication causing your constipation. And for the treatment, so pinakasikat dyan, Dulcolax, laxative. And also your stool softeners, your bulk laxatives, yung iba yung lactulose. Your osmotic agents, yan. And also, minsan may factor ang pag-upo sa trono. So, ito yung reason niya. So, pag sitting, mas preferred yung squatting. Pag sitting kasi, iipit yung puborectalis muscle. While in your squatting, more relax siya. Kaya mabilis yung pag-flow ng inyong mga poops. Okay, last part, yung parasitic gut infections. So you have your helminths and your protozoans. So for your protozoans, you have your amoeba and Amoeba histolytica, flagellates, Giardia lamblia, Amoeba fragilis. Others would have your Blastocystis hominis, Cryptosporidium parvum, Valentidium coli. So, naka-highlight dito yung pathogenic and common. Meron tayong legend dito. Pathogenic and common yung red ones. Pathogenic but unknown, yung blue. Yung green, commonly but only occasionally pathogenic. So, na ba kayo parasitology? Hindi pa. Hindi pa. Naku. Ayun, mai-encounter nyo sila doon. Nice to know na lang 'to. Hindi ko nabibigay sa exam, pero magagamit nyo siya when you have your para subject, parasitology. Yung mga helminths, flatworms, roundworms, mga common diyan, ascaris, trichuris, enterobius. Skin penetration, transmission, yun nandito tayo sa roundworms sa nematelminths. So, skin penetration, usual yan sa mga bata. Hookworms, kasi sila yung palalaro sa lupa. So, skin penetration yun. Then, may trematodes din, tapeworm. So, maraming may flatworm, roundworm, tapeworm, flukes. Yan, kabisaduhin nyo na lang. So, this is just a pathogenesis. So, your worm would be recognized by your dendritic cells. So, di ba yung dendritic cells, as we've said before, these are your antigen-presenting cells. So, this would stimulate your T helper 2, in turn releasing your interleukin 5, triggering your eosinophils. So, di ba? Natandaan nyo ba sa exam? Yung parasitic. Pag may parasite, anong cells ang involved? So, these are your eosinophils. Pakitandaan po ulit-ulit tayo dyan. Okay, then yung mga muscles, basophils, hindi sila yung main character dyan, although they are being triggered also or being activated. And then your B cell will produce your IgE. So, yung laging tatandaan, pag parasitic, allergic, pag eosinophil, IgE. IgE. Okay? So, while your interleukin 4-13 would cause your increased contractility in your smooth muscle cells, increased mucus production in your goblet cells, and increased permeability in your epithelial cells. Okay? So, common symptoms, iba, yung diarrhea, common yan. Yung itong mga, yung iba, nagpa-pass out na sila ng worms. May mga na-encounter na kaming ganun. Lumalabas yung worms sa poops or somewhere else. Pwede sa bibig. Mapapag-aralan nyo siya sa parasitology kung alin yung, sige sabihin ko yung ascaris kasi usually napupunta yan kung saan-saan. Ascaris lumbricoides. Yung may itchiness around the anal area, usually yan yung mga enterobius or pinworms. Tapos, yan, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and loose stools with blood mucus, yung mga dysentery naman yun. Ito, clinical microscopy. Nag-ano na kayo? Tapos na ba kayo doon? Hindi pa rin. Okay. So, puro intro ako. So, ito naman. So, we examine stools to check for your eggs. Mga eggs ng mga protozoans or cystic stage na ba siya? May stages kasi yung mga parasite. Yung mga protozoans, yung mga flagellated na yan. So, makikita siya through direct microscopic examination, your direct wet mount. So, we do centrifuge natin yung poops, tapos yung sediments, or minsan directly na sediment. Yung poops ay lalagyan lang ng Ziehl-Neelsen stain or wet mount lang, saline lang. Then you can see these eggs and your protozoan cysts. May mga characteristic characteristic muka sila na matatandaan nyo during your clinical microscopy and siguro sa part of your parasitology rin. Okay, so just nice to know your drugs of choice for your anti-helminths, your mebendazole, albendazole. Itong ivermectin, hindi kasi siya talaga pang COVID, kung makikita nyo. Pang ano siya, parasite. Yun lang, nice to know lang po. Okay, so yan ang ending ng GI renal. Gusto nyo bang mag-break ng 2 to 3 minutes or tutuloy na natin? Kaya pang ituloy o break? Tuloy na. Tuloy natin. Itong sa renal naman, more on comparison na lang to eh. Binilisan ko na lang din ang paggawa ng PowerPoint. I mean, yung gist lang niya. So, ang renal system natin, meron tayong lower and upper lower and upper urinary tract. So, dito muna tayo sa mga stones. Nephrolithiasis. So, these are your kidney stones. Usually are deposits from your urinary solute. So, kung napag-aralan natin, basic science yun. So, pag mas marami ang solute sa solvent, magpiprecipitate siya or in this case, nagkakaroon ng deposits dahil nasusupersaturate na siya. And Usually depende sa location yung tawag ng stone. So for this, your kidney stones in your calyces or your pelvises of your kidneys, pelvolithiasis. Pag nasa ureter, ito, kidney stone in the ureter, ureterolithiasis. So, depende siya sa location. So, here are your factors contributing to your nephrolithiasis. So, hyperparathyroidism because there's an imbalance between your calcium and your phosphorus. Your gout, so yung mga makikita nyo mamaya yung mga uric acid crystals. Certain medications, if you have hypertension, your UTI, excess, yan, yung mahilig sa maalat. Meron ba dyan? Mahilig sa chichirya, french fries ng McDo, excess dietary meat. Yan. Hindi, namamana rin siya. So, kung parents, first degree, second degree, may history ng nephrolithiasis, yan, pwede kayong magkaroon. Dehydration, obesity, diabetes mellitus, yan, and prolonged immobility. So, these are initially your crystals. So, ito yung mga eventually nagiging stone. So, most common dyan ang calcium oxalate crystals. So, here are your risk factors sa baba. O, pakitandaan na lang po, struvite stone from if you have frequent or your UTI caused by your Proteus species or your Klebsiella species. Yung sinasabi ko nito, tandaan nyo ha, para sa exam. Pero syempre, aralin nyo pa rin siya. And then, calcium oxalate. Your calcium crystals, mga predominant crystals yan. Uric acid, hindi masyado. Lalo na yung cysteine, not common. So, ito pa, isa pang gusto kong tandaan nyo sa table na to, kung alin yung radio-opaque, alin yung radiolucent. And your shapes. For your calcium, you have your envelope shape, struvite, or your ammonium magnesium phosphate. You have your coffin lid. Ito kasi ma-encounter nyo rin siya sa clinical microscopy. Para meron na rin kayong background. Para maalala nyo kapag nag-clinical microscopy kayo. So, uric acid, these are rhomboid in shape. Dito tayo sa shape. Then, your cysteine hexagonal. And yung causes niya. Nabanggit ko naman yung kailangan nating alamin, kabisaduhin for your exam. Struvite, again, UTI. Most common, calcium oxalate or calcium phosphate. For your symptoms, so usual symptoms niyan, Dok, masakit po yung tagiliran ko, yung flank pain, yan. Tapos, yung iba, sasabihin, tumutugon po o kaya kumakalat po siya dito sa lower abdomen, or kaya sa singit, groin area. So, that would be the clue kung nasaan ang location ng stone. So, usually, pag papunta sa groin area, nasa ureter part na yon. Kaya, palabas na siya. Kaya, dumadaan siya sa napakaliit na part ng kidney, yung ureter, kaya masakit sa singit. So, severe pain in the side and back. And then, painful urination, isa pang pwedeng clue na we're dealing with kidney stones. Nausea, vomiting, not much. Then, yung iba, yung balisaw-saw, urinating more often than the usual yan. Sabihin na pasyente, balik-balik po ako sa CR. So, bukod sa diabetes na pwede nating isuspect or sasabihin ng pasyente talagang diabetic na siya, we could consider obstruction from your kidney stones. Fever and chills, present din yan, lalo na kung meron na siyang kasamang infection. So, interventions, these are lifted from your textbook. So, narcotic, you use analgesia for pain, advise them to increase fluid intake, antibacterials for your UTI, yung mga shockwave, yung mga stenting, usually we refer them to urologists, sila yung gumagawa niyan. And then diet modification. And then yung mga kunyari uric acid stones yung nakita. So we address the main problem, which is your hyperuricemia. Since sa diet, advise them, yun nga, increase water, avoid calcium supplementation, avoid foods with additional vitamin D, and if vitamin C, if recommended, yung mga calcium-based, since ang most common na stone, calcium, uh, we advise those patients na gusto ng mga calcium supplements na mag-hydrate kasi nga pwede kayong mag-form ng stones. Okay, and mga high purine diet, kailangan avoid din for uric acid stones. So, surgical therapy, pag na-refer natin sa urology, so ito yung mga ginagawa nilang intervention. Your shockwave, kung may parents kayo, relatives na shockwave na, meron silang indications kung gaano kalaki yung stone, yung location ng stone, yun yung kanilang kumbaga clue kung ano yung gagamitin nilang method. Kung shockwave, ureteroscopy, or percutaneous removal. Okay. So, yun nga. Usually, pag nagka-kidney stones na hindi na-address, pwedeng mag-lead sa UTI din. So, your urinary tract infection. So, ang pinaka-common, as you can see here, 95%, 75 to 95% is your E. coli. Pakitanda na lang po. So, yun nga, ang ating urinary tract, parang gastrointestinal tract din yan, may upper and lower. So, for your upper urinary tract, may kidneys, ureter. Sa lower part yung bladder, prostate, urethra. So, for this part, ang didiscuss natin, pyelonephritis sa upper, tapos cystitis sa lower, and urethritis. So, ano ba yung pathogenesis niya? So, once, for example, yung sa kidney stones, nagkaroon ka ng blockage dun sa bladder area or sa pelvises nga tulad kanina sa ureter, so may colonization ng bacteria and then penetrate siya sa uroepithelium. Mag-ascend. Ito naman UTI naman to, no? So, kung paano siya nagkukos ng infection. And then, punta na siya sa ureters. Then, eventually, ang ending niya, paakyat yung ascension yung kanyang tag dito, pathogenesis. So, nagkukos siya ng pyelonephritis. So, to differentiate your cystitis and pyelonephritis based on your risk factors, your clinical presentation, and your causative organisms. For your cystitis, commonly sa babae, then sexual activity, vaginal infection, kasi ang 'di ba ang mas magkalapit ang reproductive organs ng babae sa urinary tract. Kaya sexual activity would be a risk factor. And also your diabetes, obesity, genetics. Clinical symptoms, frequent and urgent urination. So, ito yung madalas yung balisaw-saw. Then, suprapubic pain kasi ang bladder nasa suprapubic area. So, may gawing baba ng puson. Then, dysuria, hirap pong umihi, masakit pag umiihi. And then, nocturia, hematuria. Well, for your pyelonephritis, usually pagka may diabetes, HIV, so kasi nasa may bandang kidney area na siya, mas upper siya. Kaya hindi siya at risk dun sa mga patients na female or those who have active sexual activity. So, mas malayo siya kaya hindi siya risk factor. So, more on the systemic to, pyelonephritis with diabetes, AIDS. Yung iba, yung may congenital abnormalities sa kidneys. Yan. And then, ang common presentation niya, back pain, flank pain, rather than your suprapubic pain. So, yun yung mga differences niya. Pakitandaan. Then, for the symptoms, non-specific lang naman sila eh. Parehas lang naman sila dun sa nausea, vomiting, yung iba nagfi-fever. And then, for your causative organisms, halos the same lang sila. Sabi ko nga, most common is your E. coli, Uropathogenic E. coli, yung ibig sabihin ng UPEC, UPEEC. So, yun mga tandaan. Cystitis, more on the female sex, active sexual activity, ang pain, suprapubic area, frequent and urgent urination. Pag pyelonephritis, may systemic diseases like your diabetes, your HIV, or those with congenital abnormalities, ang pain niya, flank pain. Same lang sila sa causative organisms. Okay, clear cut ba tayo dun? Kunti na lang. Okay, so antibiotic therapy, nice to know. Iba-iba yung lalo na pag pregnant, we don't give your fluoroquinolones or your other types of antibiotics. Usually, mga nitrofurantoin or amoxicillin pag pregnant. O hindi nyo na masyadong kailangan kabisaduhin, nice to know. Yung mga gustong mag-medicine, pwede nyo na siyang simulan ngayon. Okay, so next na tayo, urethritis. So, meron siyang diagnostic criteria. So, sa urethra yung inflammation natin or yung infection. So, any of the following with the history, signs and symptoms of the patient, plus may gram stain siya. So, we request for gram stain from these patients. Any secretions or vaginal or penile secretions, you do gram stain. Check for what type. So there are two types. Later, we will discuss your gonococcal and your non-gonococcal urethritis. So observation of your discharge could be mucopurulent or purulent. Then positive leukocyte esterase test for your first void urine. Risk factors for this, syempre, mga more on sensitive sexual side, mga sexual promiscuity, nagkaroon na dati ng sexually transmitted disease, those, ayan, prostitutes or yung clients nila, sexual relations, drug and alcohol use, and then anything to do with your non-protective sex, in short. Okay, so this is your gonococcal urethritis caused by your, of course, your Neisseria gonorrhea. So, presentation niya, 3 to 5 days. This would present as your purulent urethral discharge. So, manana siya. Then, sa babae, dysuria yung common presentation niya. So, it could be systemic. Rare naman siya in disseminated forms. Then, for the diagnosis, yun nga, gram stain, you will see your gram-negative diplococci in your urethral discharge. And to rule out chlamydia, you use your Treyer Martin medium. This you would encounter this in your microbiology subject. Yan. Tapos for the treatment, we give ceftriaxone. So ini-inject natin sa patient. Kung ayaw nila ng injection, we give azithromycin 1 gram as a single dose. Ganun lang siya ka. Naghanap talaga ako ng slide na nandun na lahat para mabilis lang. So for this gonococcal urethritis, again, please take note of the discharge, purulent, and then your intracellular gram-negative diplococci on your gram stain. Yan na. For your non-gonococcal urethritis, meron tayong 4 na organism for that. And usually, ang kanilang discharge is not non-purulent. So, mas mukhang manana pagka gonococcal. So, nice to know lang. Hindi ko na, kailangan nyo lang alamin yung urea plasma, urea liticum, your Trichomonas vaginalis, common sa female, chlamydia, and your Mycoplasma genitalium. Pwede kong itanong dyan yung Trichomonas. So, advice lang natin lagi dyan, kunyari, nagkaroon tayo ng findings, assessment sa patient na mayroon siyang urethritis, gonococcal man yan or non-gonococcal, we advise them to have also work up for your other sexually transmitted diseases like your syphilis, your HIV, kasi most common magkakasama yan. Either isa sila dalawa. So, just to check them also for those types of infections. Okay, moving on na tayo. Mabilis lang, di ba? Dinaan ko na lang sa mga picture para matandaan nyo. So, this time, we will differentiate your nephritic syndrome from your nephrotic syndrome. So, para siyang yung, kung natatandaan nyo sa COPD, yung blue bloaters and your pink puffer. So, for this nephritic naman, more on the madugo side. So, this is the inflammation of your glomeruli. So, you can have your hypertension, your oliguria, konti lang yung naiihi ng pasyente, your tea-colored urine or your Coca-Cola colored urine, so hematuria. And usually, these are seen in patients with IgA nephropathy. It's the most common cause of your primary glomerulonephritis. Okay? Comparing it with your nephrotic syndrome, you have your, ito lang tatandaan nyo dyan, hypoalbuminemia. Bakit siya nag-hypoalb? Kasi nasisikret yung protein. Nakita nyo, may massive proteinuria. And also, you have your hyperlipidemia. And then, eventually, your peripheral edema. So, again, nephritic, inflammation ng glomeruli, may hypertension ka, hematuria, oliguria. Pag nephrotic, mababa albumin sa dugo, that's your hypoalbuminemia. Because dahil sa massive proteinuria, nagkakaroon ka ng hypoalbuminemia and eventually your peripheral edema. And then additional lang yung hyperlipidemia. Okay? So, ito pa yung isang example ng comparison nila. Kaya ako nilagyan ng red boxes, pakitandaan ulit-ulit natin. So, yung nephritic, again, you have your hematuria, hypertension, mild lang yung proteinuria niya, mild lang yung edema niya, and you have your oliguria. So, yun lang tatandaan nyo sa nephritic. And then, for your nephrotic, again, low serum albumin or hypoalbuminemia, your proteinuria, increase protein in the urine, your edema, and dyslipidemia. Okay tayo doon? Yan na, pinagdidiinan ko na yung pwede ko ilabas sa quiz, sa exam. Okay. Tapos, yung mga examples niya or yung mga disease entities na nagkukos ng mga syndrome na yan for your nephrotic, your minimal change disease, most common in children, membranous nephropathy, most common in adults, your nephritic, for your nephritic naman, yun nga, nasabi natin, your IgA nephropathy. So, paano tatandaan? Mga nephritis, glomerulonephritis sa nephritic. Minimal change, membranous sa nephrotic. So, hematuria laging present sa nephritic. May proteinuria din sila pares pero marked or massive yung sa nephrotic. Kaya siya nagkukos ng edema. Yun lang tatandaan nyo lagi. Okay. Next na tayo. Diba? We have your acute and chronic renal failure. So, what are your causes? Meron tayong, dinivide siya sa tatlo. Your pre-renal, from your systemic causes, pag may dehydration, in-shock ang patient, heart failure, sepsis, anything na magdi-decrease ng blood flow sa kidneys, that would be your pre-renal. And your intrarenal or your renal causes of your renal failure, yung mga diabetic nephropathy na yan, acute glomerulonephritis, so nakafocus na siya sa mismong kidneys, interstitial nephritis, ATNs, your acute tubular necrosis, And then your post-renal, ito yung mga causes niya, usually obstruction. So, nabanggit na natin kanina yan, yung mga nephrolithiasis, urolithiasis, yung iba may tumors, iba may mga strictures, urethral stricture, mga may prostate problem, prostate enlargement, yun yung benign prostatic hyperplasia. Anything na mag-obstruct, that will be post-renal. Tandaan nyo yan kasi may kinalaman siya sa difference ng acute and chronic renal failure. So, ito na naman tayo pag acute and chronic. Sa kidneys, pagka-acute, hindi, baligtad naman sa kidneys. Pag acute, hindi siya masyadong toxic looking. So, pakitandaan na lang yung nasa box kasi pag acute and chronic, usually naman pag acute, days lang yan, 2 weeks. Usual comparison yan. Laging tatandaan yun. Pag acute, ano lang yan, days, weeks. Pagka chronic, yan yung mga months, years. So, pag acute renal failure, meron kang, pwede mo siyang i-reverse. And mga common causes niya are your pre-renal and your post-renal. So, pakitandaan pag acute. Kunyari, nagbigay ako ng situational, dehydrated ang patient, in shock, or mayroon siyang prostate enlargement, meron siyang kidney stones, ano yung usual na pwedeng renal failure sa kanya. So, acute renal failure. Pagka naman, kunyari, sinabi ko, diabetic yung patient, may history ng glomerulonephritis, o yun yung mga, kumbaga, chronic siya na diseases. So, isipin nyo, pwede siya mag-chronic renal failure. And your chronic renal failure is irreversible. Ito na yung mga long time na nagda-dialysis, lifetime na silang nagda-dialysis. Okay? So, ito, nakalagay din dito, pag acute renal failure, initially, pwedeng mag-dialysis, pero hindi siya yung long time. Yung chronic, yun talaga yung lifetime ng nadadialysis. Kasi nga, pag acute renal failure, nare-reverse pa siya. May reversibility. And then, renal transplantation, mas required siya pag chronic renal failure. Okay? Okay ba, guys? Okay, salamat po sa mga gising pa. So, ito, not much of this. So, usual laboratory test natin pinapagawa. Siyempre, your CBC to check if the patient is anemic. Your electrolyte, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, pero initially sodium, potassium lang. And also your creatinine and your BUN. Ito siya. So, yung nasa taas, yung acute kidney injury or your acute renal failure, criteria lang siya, hindi ko naman papakabisado sa inyo yan. Just suffice to know na meron siyang stages din. No, pero hindi siya cancer, ano. So, acute kidney injury and your chronic kidney disease. Yan yung kinukumpyuta natin based on your creatinine, serum creatinine ratio. So, ito na yung summary niya. In one picture, so types ng renal failure, acute and chronic. Causes niya, so pag acute, could be pre-renal or post-renal. Pagka chronic, usually renal causes, yun na lang tandaan nyo. Then, all of them would initially, ang acute hemodialysis. Pero pag hindi na siya na-convert, hindi na nahabol, hindi na bumabay creatinine niya, hindi na nag-normalize symptoms, there's such a thing as acute kidney injury on top of your chronic kidney disease. Pero, ano na yan, medyo high yield na yun. So, suffice to know at this stage, you have your acute and chronic renal failure. And pareho silang magda-dialysis yung patient, pero short period lang ang acute renal failure. Okay, tapos na tayo, guys. May tanong po ba? Oh, tuwan-tuwa naman Sir Andre. Flat 1 yan, flat 1. Okay, ready na ba kayo mag-quiz sa Wednesday? pag biglang nalungkot yarn. Anong gawin natin? Puro multiple choice na nga eh. Sinabi ko na, in-emphasize ko na yung yung mga points natin. Ulitin ko ba lahat? Ulitin natin. Sige nga, mag-review tayo. Wari lang, wari. Kuwari lang. Sige, magtatawag tayo. Oh, sa types ng hepatitis. Sa types ng hepatitis, alin yung fecal oral route ang mode of transmission? Tawag, ay, taasan agad kami. Teka, magtatawag muna ako ha, pag wala nakasagot. Ma'am Maureen Maniego. Are you there? Are you there? Ma'am Maureen. Ulo. Nakatulog na. Diyan ba siya? Check natin. Yung mga recitation na ganito, form of attendance ko na rin. Yung ko na rin minsan nagtatawag ng sunod-sunod. So, wala si Ma'am Mau. Sige nga, si Flat One. Sir Villaferte.
Hepatitis A and E po.
Okay, thank you. Sino naman yung parenteral, yung mode of transmission sa mga hepatitis? Yes, Sir Ross.
Ano po ulit, ma'am?
Ulo, taos ko nung kamay.
Napindot
Alin?
eh. Pero
Ah,
BNC po.
wow.
Or D.
Dagdag mo na yung D. B, C, and D. Kasi laging tatandaan si D, hepatitis D. Prerequisite niya si Hepa B. Okay, thank you. Ano pa? Pa ba review natin? Yun na yan eh. O ano yung 4F sa risk factors ng cholelithiasis? Yes, Ma'am Ramirez. Give one lang, sige, para mabigyan natin.
Female po.
Okay, another, thank you. Ma'am Andus.
Fat po, ma'am. Fat.
Oh, wag mo ulit-ulitin, grabe ka sa akin. Sir Gubalya.
Fertile po, ma'am.
Okay, and the last one, Ma'am Angod.
40 po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ayan, tandaan niyo yan, 4F ng cholelithiasis. Ano pa? Give me one defensive barriers sa stomach. Di ba may defensive tsaka aggressive tayo sa pathophysiology ng peptic ulcers? Alin dun yung defensive? Yes, Ma'am Dilima. Give me one. Okay, thank you. Yes, Ma'am Galman.
Mucus po.
Okay, thank you. Ano pa? Mucus. Yung buffer. Alin ba yung buffer doon? Bukan nga natin si... Nandiyan na ba si Ma'am Godoy? Wala. Ma'am Godoy. Ma'am Perez.
Hello po.
Ano yung mga defensive na bigay na yung mucus tsaka ano pa isa?
Yung po, sinabi po ni Princess.
Ano pa?
Hindi ko po masyadong alam yung part na to.
Oh, eto. Ayan. O sige. Ayan na. Sorry guys. O ayan na. Ni-emphasize ko na kasi para mabilis na lang. Lalagyan nyo na lang siya ng marka mamaya pag sinend ko yung PowerPoint. So, for your pathophysiology ng peptic ulcer, so defensive bicarb, your buffer, your mucus, prostaglandins. Oh, pag aggressive, yung H. pylori, NSAIDs, pepsins, bile acid, smoking, alcohol. Okay? Okay. Yun pa. Mhm. Sa karakteristik ng H. pylori, may natatandaan ba kayong karakteristik niya kaya niyang manahan sa gastric environment? Yes, Sir Tapang.
Kaya niya po mag-sustain sa acidic na environment ng stomach natin.
Mm. Ano yung factor niya? Bakit kaya niya yun? Ano yung meron siya? Yes, ma'am. San Pablo.
Yun po ba yung urease activity?
Yes, correct. Yan. Ito siya. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo, medyo tandaan nyo siya. Yung mga urease, flagella. Yung urease, tama rin naman si sir, kaya siya, ayun yung power niya na nagka-counteract dun sa acidic environment. Kaya niya masustain yung acidic environment dahil sa urease. Then yung flagella, para makapasok siya sa epithelial cells. O kahit yun na lang, pero familiarize nyo yan. Okay. O siya, mag-aalas 9 na. Na-emphasize ko naman lahat. Ano pa ba? O sa pancreatitis, yung most common causes, pakitandaan. Ayan binibigay ko na yung pointers. Yung signs and symptoms, pakitandaan. Yung mga itetest, mga laboratory test, pakitandaan. AGE, yung viral cause, bacterial cause. Yung magta-transcribe dyan, i-take note mo na lang para mamaya pag sinend ko yung PowerPoint. Sa constipation, yung definition, yung Bristol stool chart. Alarming signs ng constipation. Parasitic, hindi ko nabibigayan masyado. Sa renal, nephrolith, yung mga stones na sinabi ko kanina, calcium and struvite. Aralin niyo pa rin lahat pero binibigay ko lang emphasis yung mga points na pwede kong ibigay sa inyo. Symptoms ng kidney stone. Sa UTI, most common pathogen. Difference ng cystitis, pyelonephritis. Sa urethritis, difference ng gonococcal at non-gonococcal. Difference ng nephritic and nephrotic. And difference ng acute and chronic renal failure. Gets na ba nung magta-transcribe ano yung i-emphasize natin? Gising pa ba kayo? Okay na. Masyadong serious. So, sa Wednesday, face-to-face tayo. Start tayo ng quiz ng 7:20. O yan nag-adjust na naman ako. Adjust. Si Ma'am President, tsaka si Ma'am, sino ba to? Ma'am Gudoy. Mamaya, kita tayo sa clinic para matapos na yung long exam nyo. Wednesday, quiz ng cardiopulmo GI renal. Nagawa ko ni cardiopulmo yung GI renal na bigay ko yung emphasis kung alin ang lalabas sa exam. Ano pa? May tanong ba kayo? Patapos na tayo, guys. Yes. Ayan na naman to. Nabaka mo ng tanong mo. Ilang items, ma'am, yung quiz. Tigte 10 points per topic. 10 sa cardio, 10 sa pulmo, 10 sa GI, 10 sa renal. Okay, ano pa? Ano pa ang inyong tanong? Yan, tandaan nyo yan. Pati yung sa COPD, yung picture na yan. May tanong pa po, mga anak, mga kung tatanungin niyo multiple choice, o sige, puro multiple choice po. Puwedeng true or false, puwedeng yung both or neither, all of the above, yung mga gano'n. Basta multiple choice siya. Okey na po. Hindi na ako nag-attend dun, so yung mga sumagot siyempre may additional points yun. Wow, dami nagdiwang. Siyempre para fair naman sa mga nagpa-participate. Yung mga natatawag na nagta-try sumagot, meron din yung point siyempre. Yung mga hindi na sumagot, ano lang yun, passing ano lang, tamang ano lang, pasa lang. Okay. Okay na tayo guys. Nag-aaral pa si Madam President para mamaya.